The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, hey there. Thank you so much for joining another program and the conversation on Ready, Set, Respond. I'm your host, Carla Alicea, Director of Client Performance with Apartment Ratings and Satisfax, and I'm so glad to be here with you all today. And every month, as we discuss topics that impact multifamily operations. As you know, these conversations are designed to have a little something for everyone, and I hope you and your colleagues will join me every month, participate in our audience polls, and take away insights that expand your knowledge. At the end of this program, don't forget to head over to the Satisfax page on Facebook or Instagram, where you can add a comment and share your biggest takeaway from today's conversation for a chance to win a $50 gift card. We have a great program for you today. As you know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So today on the program, we're going to talk with one of NAA's inaugural mental health first aid instructors. So coming up are That's My Job guests. Joining the conversation is Valerie M. Sargent. Now, Valerie is the president of Yvette Poole and Associates and Valerie M. Sargent, Inc. She is a skilled speaker, trainer, consultant, and EQ executive coach. We're going to learn what that is. She specializes in leasing, sales, marketing, customer service, and most importantly, leadership. She obtained her level 1 and level 2 Talent Smart Emotional Intelligence Trainer certification in 2013 and thrives in taking companies' teamwork and communication to new levels as an emotional intelligence strategist. Now say that 3 times fast. After the pandemic, she became one of the National Apartment Association's inaugural mental health first aid instructors to help our industry focus on the mental health needs of our associates, our leaders, and our communities. Now, Valerie knows how to inspire others and bring vitality to individuals and organizations. And I've been so excited and looking forward to this conversation because I've actually had a personal experience with stress and burnout, and I know how crucial and oftentimes ignored the topics of emotional intelligence and mental health are. So I've also been a long time admirer of Valerie's from the first time we met back in the early 90s when she, or the late 90s when she was the director of marketing and training at a property management company when I was a young community manager. Good teachers are hard to come by. People who can really get through all of the emotional noise that are going on and help you to absorb and learn and grow. And Valerie was by far one of the most influential trainers I have personally had the pleasure to learn and grow with. So I'm excited to introduce her to you all today. But first, as you all know, it's time for those Ready, Set, Respond polls. So go ahead and take out your phones, scan that QR code on the screen, or go on over to slido.com and enter that code 3503640. We're going to start off the program with, I think, about 4 polls. I want to know a little bit more about your understanding and feelings on emotional intelligence. Now, like always, keep in mind, there are no right or wrong answers. They're just honest ones. So when you see that poll on the screen, be ready to respond with your feedback. All right, guys, hopefully you're ready. I'm going to go and move to the first poll. All right, so first poll question. On a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being very low and 5 being very high, how would you rate your current knowledge of emotional intelligence and its relevance to mental health? Okay, we've got already coming in, about 9 people have 12, wonderful. We're looking at about a moderate, some people are saying very high, couple people out there not so sure. So across the board, it looks like some moderate and some very high. Well, hopefully you'll take away a little bit more today. some facts and some data that you can put into action at your communities. All right, let's go to the next poll. How important do you consider emotional intelligence in fostering productivity and profitability in the workplace? All right, 6 coming in. I was hoping this would be the case. It looks like very important, coming out of the gate as the #1 feeling. We've got 88% of respondents saying that emotional intelligence is very important to fostering productivity and profitability. I think our speakers are going to have a lot to say about that. All right, our next poll. Do you believe a shift towards a more emotionally intelligent approach to leadership can positively impact employee well-being and job satisfaction? I'm hoping based off of the last poll, we're going to see the correlation here, that most of our attendees and our audience members strongly agree. Yep, 80% strongly agreeing that leadership can have a positive impact. Emotionally intelligent leadership can have a positive impact on employee well-being. Now, this is something I was really curious about. So hopefully everyone will respond to this one, because I really want to know, have you observed a shift towards more emotionally intelligent workplace, particularly after the COVID-19 pandemic? Okay, so this is where we're a little split here, right? Right? So yes, 43. Oh, okay, we're coming in, still coming in. We got 11 respondents. Let's see, it's moving around. Okay, 14%. So 36% are not sure, or they say it's not applicable. So they're not sure if they've noticed more emotional intelligence in the workplace. About 30% are saying, yes, there was a minor shift. 25% saying, no, there was no change prior to COVID of the emotional intelligence level in the workplace. So this is telling me something, right? This is telling me that we all agree that it's very important for profitability and productivity and employee well-being, but we're not yet seeing a major shift in the workplace. And so that is absolutely where our speaker comes in. So I think it's a great time to bring our guest on. Valerie, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you, Carla, and thank you for all of your kind words. And I played too, by the way. I brought the QR code up and I was answering as well.
I love it.
And actually, can I address that last one really quickly?
Please do.
Okay, so interestingly, they do a measure of emotional intelligence from year to year, and the last report I looked at, unfortunately, saw a decline in emotional intelligence. And I think that that's due in part to the pandemic and to all of the social challenges that we had. And I'm sure all of those people out on site have experienced shorter fuses with their residents and more difficulties, and so not really knowing what to do with those sometimes has been a challenge for those on-site employees. So it's actually gone down a little bit, which is why I chose not applicable for that one. I
Interesting.
would have chosen no.
You know, I think a serial optimist, and I thought maybe the pandemic increased our awareness of how mental health and well-being was so important for productivity and for our employees and for profitability, that people would have increased in their EQ, emotional intelligence. But I guess that's why we need EQ executive coaches like yourself. So tell me, because I love that title. I think that is the most amazing title anyone can have, as an EQ executive coach. Tell me a little bit more about your role and what you do as an EQ executive coach.
Sure, that's part of what I do, and it usually follows someone going through a level 1 emotional intelligence training, because it really starts there in being able to assess your emotional intelligence and then also to move forward and to grow in all of the areas that emotional intelligence encompasses. So I work with people usually on an every other week basis, and I assign homework sometimes. And it's basically an executive coach that is focused on emotional intelligence and growing that skill, because it is a skill that can be developed. And a lot of times I will do this within the context of an organization. For instance, a company will do a level 1 training for their senior level team members maybe, and then I will continue working with those team members in an ongoing capacity, coaching them so that they can grow that skill. And it's really helpful for them because they bring challenges to me that they encounter in the workplace, and things that maybe they didn't know how to handle. They'll bring to me the ways in which they did respond and ask for feedback on some possible alternatives. And it's really just helping them make decisions and choose their actions wisely so that they are managing themselves effectively in those relationships.
Well, that's amazing. I definitely could have used you a few years ago for sure. So tell me, how does emotional intelligence directly impact mental health, and why is it important to consider these two aspects together?
Well, I've been a certified emotional intelligence trainer since 2013, so 10 years now. And it was this year that I became certified first as a mental health first aider and then as a mental health first aid instructor, because I could see the direct tie-in. You know, in some of my coaching work that I do, you encounter the levels of stress and the challenges that people are dealing with in the workplace, and those are tied to emotions. And emotions are linked with mental health. People feel them physically, they feel them psychologically, and emotional intelligence plays a major role in regulating your feelings, which are definitely tied up in mental health.
Are there any examples or research that you've been finding that demonstrates this connection?
No, I don't think they've done a lot of research on the two together, interlinked. I mean, just the concept of it is definitely there just because of the emotional link. But
Mhm.
I found a few. There was one that was about the emotional intelligence and mental health of workers, employees. That was done by a guy named Robnet Cure, and he was at a call university, and this was 2019. And he was looking at this idea that the two were possibly linked, and he found that it can be said that there's a significant relationship between emotional intelligence and mental health, and that
Yeah.
they influence each other. So one of the things that he said that I liked was that they're bi-directional in nature. One influences the other, and vice versa.
Interesting.
So that direct link is there. There was another study that was done actually among medical students in Suez Canal University, and they were looking at how emotion management really leads to less stress and can help people adapt by inducing a more positive mood. And
Mhm.
that if anybody is having more negative moods and things that are happening, like that emotional state changes and it becomes more negative. So they really do, kind of like the other guy was saying, tie together. And for the students, you know, they're in such a high stress. You know, this is a medical student. They're in a high stress environment, and they found in this study that the lack of extracurricular activities and skill training programs led to lowered emotional intelligence levels and depression. So the intelligence levels were negatively correlated with depression. So those two were linked there. So those were the two studies that I found that kind of correlated the two together.
Absolutely. Well, when we got together and kind of started talking about this topic, you brought up these two, exercises of noticing and doing. So when an employee is experiencing, a state of heightened emotion. So how can individuals who are, in this heightened emotion capacity help to develop self-awareness as a key component of their emotional intelligence?
Well, self-awareness is basically the foundation of emotional intelligence because without it, it's hard to do all the rest. So, with the noticing and the doing, this is one strategy when we talk about breath work that you have on your slide. That's a strategy as far as doing is concerned, but you have self-awareness, noticing that something is happening, that you're feeling stressed somewhere in your body, and then being able to manage that effectively. So the doing is actually the self-management and how you actually regulate and handle that emotion.
So how does breath work contribute to making reactions and calming the body during intense emotional experiences?
Well, for this, I think that it's one of the easiest strategies to employ. So it's one of the reasons why I like to talk to people about it, because it's something that we can do that immediately can set off our parasympathetic nervous system. So it's important how you do it, though. When we take breath into our chest, most people do that a little bit more shallowly. And that can actually set off your sympathetic, your stress response part of your nervous system. And you really want to, if you're doing some breath work, trying to calm yourself, take it all the way into your belly and expand your belly. And that's where you're activating your parasympathetic nervous system, which is what calms your body down during times of stress. And so you think of yoga. Some people have done yoga breathing. There's a method called 4-7-8, and you intake breath into your belly for 4 seconds, you hold it for 7 seconds, and then you exhale slowly for 8 seconds. And that's a way that you can calm yourself. I started doing a restore yoga class late last year, and all it is doing is stretching and breathing. And I tell you what, that has been the most helpful, wonderful class. You know, Carla, I just went through the stress of a move, and
Hmm.
it has helped me maintain my sanity, I swear.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Uh, sometimes, especially when we're on site or we're dealing with people's homes, these residents, they come in and they're so upset that maybe a pipe bust and it ruined a priceless album, a photo album or heirloom, um, or you have your bosses calling you asking you for all these reports, or you have to have a real intense conversation with an employee, and taking that time to just calm yourself and do that breath work can really help to um, set the tone and create more balance for you emotionally. So are there other effective strategies or practices besides breath work that individuals can use to pay attention to their reactions and regulate their emotions?
I think one of the most important things that you can do is to monitor your inner monologue, where you're just talking to yourself and you're basically creating a definition about what's happening in front of you, and you're just kind of narrating that in your head. And in some cases, like with me last night when my neighbors were making a lot of noise at 3 in the morning, you're having an argument with someone in your head who's not even there. All the things
Yes.
that you would say to them if you had that ability.
And,
So
and how do you calm those voices?
you have to, it's the self-awareness. You have to recognize that you're doing it and catch it in that moment and make a different choice. And just really think, like in that instance, I actually switched to the breath work. I used the breath work this morning at 3 a.m. To calm myself when I was experiencing heightened emotions because they were very loud and they woke me up.
Yeah.
And it's like you have to get yourself out of that mindset, and that's a self-management technique, is to make a different choice in what you're doing at that moment. Tony Robbins always talked about doing an activity where you wear a rubber band on your wrist, and if you catch yourself doing a habit that you don't want to do, snap that rubber band, and it's a physical snap that will snap you to attention and make you catch yourself. And
Interesting.
so that's something that you can do if you're really trying to change a habit, change a behavior, a way that you respond.
Mm-hmm. I definitely can relate to having those arguments in your head with individuals and as a way of kind of getting out what you would probably never say in reality. But when that becomes obsessive and it controls your thoughts, it's just counterproductive. And
Right.
so, recognizing that you're doing it and then making that conscious choice to change that conversation in your head to have a different conversation, whether it's through breathing, whether it's counting sheep, whatever, but stopping that negativity. And I'm hearing a lot of conversations these days about that negative voice in our heads that's more critical than
Mm-hmm.
what is in reality. And I think that so many people, that conversation is becoming so helpful to so many people because we're starting to realize that we're our own worst critics.
Dr. Daniel Amen, he studies brain health. He talks about those as ants, automatic negative thoughts. And he said, you want to squash the ants.
I love it. I love that. Absolutely. So another thing you mentioned in our pre-conversations is that the Center of Creative Leadership had stated that 75% of careers actually derail because of emotional competencies. So can you elaborate on what emotional competencies are and how they relate to leadership?
Sure. The four emotional competencies that are involved with the emotional intelligence program that I speak and train about are self-awareness and self-management that we've talked about, but also social awareness and relationship management skills as well. And so really the first two are about the self, what happens within yourself, but the other two are about when you are working with other people. So social awareness is paying attention to what's going on with those around you, and relationship management is what you do with that. And it's just really how good are you at those skills? How well do you relate to people, and how well do you have those relationships with others? And you see some leaders that may be very intellectually capable and so smart, but they may be very poor people,
Mm-hmm.
people. And
Mm-hmm.
so they have challenges managing people, and that sometimes derails some careers or puts them in a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
And it's helping people that and you may be strong in a certain area and not in another area, and that's where it can help to have a very balanced team that picks up where others leave off, and that you can help each other grow when you have opposite skill sets and different strengths. So I think leaders really pay attention to their teams, and those social awareness skills and relationship management skills are super important.
So, how can individuals strengthen their leadership skills by developing their EQ? Are there any exercises that they can do to develop those relationship skills that we just talked about? Hello? I think we might have lost connection. Oh, yep, our panelist went offline. She just moved into a new home, and I have a sneaking suspicion her internet went out. 70% back. Hold on, guys. She's texting me. She'll be right back. She's almost here. We're hanging on. All right. What I'm going to go ahead and do while she gets logged back in, we're going to move forward to our fact or fiction polls. So, uh, what we did was we took 4 takeaways from a Gallup study on the economic cost of poor employee mental health. Now, if you've been an attendee to our show in the past, you know that the fact or fiction game, we're going to present you with 4 statements, and you have to tell me if those are fact or if they are fiction. So the 4 statements are coming from that Gallup study on economic costs of poor employee mental health. So let's go ahead, and if you need to get logged back in to Slido, here's the screen. We're going to go ahead and show our first fact or fiction question. So, true or false, fact or fiction? 4 out of 10 US workers report that their job has an extremely negative or a somewhat negative impact on their mental health, as compared with 3 out of 10 who report an extremely positive or somewhat positive impact. Is this fact or is this fiction? See that there's still people taking, and we got up to 7 respondents. I'll give it a few more seconds. All right, let's see what the answer is. It is fact, and our audience got it right. So let's move on to the next one. All right. Workers with fair or poor mental health are estimated to have nearly 12 days of unplanned absences annually, compared to only 2.5 days for all other workers. Is this fact or is this fiction? All right, we've got 10 people. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. It is absolutely fact. Great job, guys. You are on a roll. Moving on to the next question. Generalized across the U.S. workforce, this missed work is estimated to cost the economy about $27.6 billion annually in lost productivity. Is this fact or is this fiction? See what we get. Get to 10. All right. All right, you guys, 89% of you said it's fact, but this is actually fiction because it is actually estimated to cost the economy $47.6 billion annually. So a little trick there, but just to demonstrate the effects of mental health on our economy and why it's so important that companies and managers and leaders focus on building that emotional intelligence and contributing to a positive mental health environment for their employees. Last question. Over half of workers do not have easily accessible support services. They meant mental health support services. Is this fact or is this fiction? See what we've got. We've got polls coming in. All right, where are we? Let's see. Fact, 100%. You guys got it right. Spot on. It is true in our country. Mental health resources and benefits are still very scarce. So that is why it is very important that we continue to promote individuals like Valerie that are out there helping everyone to realize their full potential in their emotional intelligence and have those coaches that are trained in mental health first aid. Actually, I want to go to this slide here. I think, Valerie, you're back with us.
How about that? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Wonderful. Welcome back.
I switched microphones. That was a new adventure. I'm so sorry. And thank you everyone for hanging in and finding out some fun facts. I apologize. My computer came with a blue screen and a sad face. But emotional intelligence is about being able to manage stress in a moment. So Carla and I just did the best we could, right?
We did, we did. Well, I definitely wanted to get to this slide because I thought that this was such an interesting conversation that we had. And I really wanted to share this with our listeners about, when managing individuals who are facing emotional health difficulties, how empathy plays such an important role. Can you elaborate on that?
Absolutely. Empathy is an important emotional intelligence skill, actually, and it is one that you can develop further. And for empathy, I really love, I don't know how many of you listen to or read Brene Brown, but she talks about empathy in such beautiful ways. And it's really about understanding where someone is coming from, like really being in that with them and understanding what they must be feeling. So really getting in there with them into the hole that they're in and just being with them in that space and holding space for them.
Mhm.
And it's just important that you really prioritize mental health as a leader and understand when someone is struggling, that even though you may not understand why they're struggling, that you can understand that they are having a struggle, and
Mhm.
it's just very important to prioritize that.
Yeah, the avoid rejection when you were saying, you need to listen actively and provide resources, but avoid rejection. And that's when someone comes to you, you're their manager or direct report, and they're asking you for help. Just because you don't understand, don't immediately reject their requests. If you need to, right, take some time to think and to investigate and to research. But by rejecting their request just because you don't understand that, right, that's compiling that situation for that employee who's having that emotional health difficulty. So I really loved that topic. Is, you might not understand it, but take a breath, right? Use your breath work and do some research. Um, could you provide any particular strategies or examples of how leaders can actively listen to their team members and offer appropriate instances in such situations?
Sure. I think the importance here is to fully listen to someone. Don't be involved in other tasks. Like, really take the time to set everything aside, engage with them fully, listen fully to their body language, to the micro expressions on their face, and see how they are expressing themselves. And the most important thing, which is an important part of mental health first aid, actually, is to listen without judgment. You don't want to be judging what you're hearing from them, but letting them feel like they truly are in a safe space and they're safe to communicate with you.
Yeah, safe psychological spaces is also a topic that you hear a lot about these days, creating that environment. So what can leaders, and in what ways can leaders ensure that the necessary resources and time are provided to individuals facing emotional difficulties? And how can they strike a balance between supporting their employees and managing their overall workload? So I hear that a
Well, just,
lot too.
yeah, just understanding that mental health is just like physical health and really treating it as such. And it's knowing what your HR department has in benefits, and is that plan adequate? And what is the company culture like? Is it accepting of people who maybe need to leave for a therapy appointment? A therapy appointment is the same as any other doctor's appointment. It's an appointment that somebody needs to go to. Again, we don't want to have any type of stigma on mental health being different than any other type of health. And so making sure that your company has adequate resources and that it's communicated to the employees, especially if they come to you and they need to know if they do need help. If you're noticing something, you can say, "Are you okay? You don't seem yourself today." Like, that just simple notice of what's going on with them, that active social awareness, that emotional intelligence skill can help you determine that somebody might be struggling. and then you can see how you can help.
Absolutely. Well, NAA recognized the need to embrace mental health education and expand their offerings, and they partnered with an organization called National Council for Mental Well-Being. And you went through a program. Can you tell us about that program and what it's offering our industry?
Yes, absolutely. I went through it first to become a mental health first aider. So the thing is, like, you don't have to be a leader to be a mental health first aider. Anyone can do this. And I loved it so much, and it tied in with so much of my emotional intelligence work that when NAA offered to have some instructors included in, they basically sponsored 12 of us to become certified to teach mental health first aid to others. And when they offered that, I definitely raised my hand as being interested. So we actually have an 8-hour skills-based training that was developed by the National Council for Mental Wellbeing that helps people just learn what to do when things happen. So just like with CPR, if you assist someone who's having a heart attack, mental health first aid teaches people how to identify and understand and respond to those signs or symptoms that they might see in the workplace. This may be about mental health, it may be substance abuse, but any adults over the age of 18, that's what this training is geared for, is teaching people how to recognize and respond.
Oh, that's great. It's such a great resource. And if you guys want more information about it, just head on over to naahq.org /MHFA. And there's multiple pages of resources, both for mental health resources, for instructors that have been certified, and let's see, where are we at? So we already did our ready, set, response. So we're going to skip forward. I want to just thank our guest, Valerie. Thank you so much for being a part of today's conversation. It's such an important topic, and trainers and coaches like you are so valued, especially in today's society where I don't know about you guys, but every time I wake up, I think the world's just gone a little bit madder, a little bit more crazy, and things are changing at such a rapid pace that our mental health and our emotional intelligence is, I think, more important now than it has ever been in any time throughout history because of how fast our society is. And if your company is looking for a coach or training sessions, I highly recommend Valerie. Definitely follow her on Twitter. And you could reach out. Her email and website are here on the screen. Feel free to take a picture of that. Guys, right now, it's time to continue that conversation online. So head on over to Instagram and Facebook and tell us your biggest takeaway from today's conversation about emotional intelligence and mental health. All entries are due today by 5 p.m. For that chance to win a $50 gift card. Valerie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. And thank you all for your patience as my computer decided to do something different today. And I'd just like to close with the thought that emotional intelligence is something that you can grow. And we do see that emotions since the pandemic have been heightened for a lot of people. And so knowing that people don't know how to handle that as well, if you can just put direct focus on how you manage your thoughts, how you manage your actions with others, and how you want to see the world evolve into a less mad place, and put some attention on both mental health and emotional intelligence, and you'll be sitting pretty out there, I promise.
Agreed. Absolutely. And guys, you know, we're going to have another Ready, Set, Respond next month. Our topic is going to be marketing beyond the obvious, data-driven strategies to target renter personas and psychographics with our very own Leah Nicole Smith, VP of Marketing and Education here at Satisfax, a multifamily influencer and thought leader. So head on over to satisfax.com/webinars to register for next month's program. And as as it is, all good things must come to an end, and we've reached the end of our program. So help our program improve and complete that post-closing survey. Your feedback is important to me. Thank you for joining the conversation. I'm Carla Alicea, and we'll see you next time. Take care.